Good day, folks, and welcome to Journey of the Anointed with Mr. Buzz. So my friends in the UK, we were talking about years that I spent living with blind people. And I said I had some good blind jokes, and I do. I have a few blind jokes as well, but I have a story that I'll tell. This is my favorite story. I laughed so hard when this happened. I mean, it hurt. You had to be there to believe how funny this was. So for some reason, when I hung out with these blind dudes, we lived together for years. They were my roommates, and we partied together constantly. They were my crew. I was the only sighted one of the bunch. I hung out with like 7, 8 blind people, and some of them had a little bit of vision. Most of them had none at all. So it was quite a trip. I mean, we had some pretty wild times. And they drank like crazy, just like I did. We all drank a lot. And we partied hard, chased women, and I mean, nothing slowed them down. In fact, they were blind. They both had motorcycles. They literally owned motorcycles and drove them in the pit, okay, beside their house. These guys were two of them, 2 brothers is who I hung out with most, but there was like a group of 7 or 8 of us all together. But these 2 guys, they were the wildest blind dudes I ever met. They were just, Darren and Chris Judge was their names. So I'm not even going to keep them anonymous. It's possible God will put the video right in front of them. They won't see it, but they'll hear it. So for some reason, when we'd be out in the bars and stuff, there was one question they always got from people. Because a lot of people would see them, partying. They'd have their white cane, and they'd be with me, and I'd be guiding them, right? They'd hold onto my arm, and I'd guide them around. They always get the same question from people. People would be curious, and they'd want to know if they could ask them questions and stuff. And they were really open. They didn't mind that at all, right? They were pretty cool that way. But the question they'd always get was a weird one. What is it like to be drunk when you're blind? I don't even know why people ask that question, but I'm serious. They got this question all the time. What's it like to be drunk as a blind person? Not sure what people are thinking when they ask that question. Why that's... I mean, if you've never spoken to a blind person before, there's all these things you could ask. That's the best you can come up with? So, anyway, we're at this bar called the Silver Bullet. And we're having a real good time, and we're both pretty drunk. Yep, we're having a real good time this night. I'm with Chris, and this dude walks up to me. This is the other thing, is people would come up to me and ask if they could talk to Darren or Chris, who I was with, and they'd be like, why don't you just go ask them? But I guess they didn't feel comfortable walking up to a person that couldn't see them and, tapping them on the shoulder or whatever, which I can understand. So that they were trying to be respectful for the most part. But this dude, he did the same thing. He came up to me, and he goes, can I ask him a question? He's blind, right? I said, yeah, he's blind. Can I ask him a question? I said, yeah, I would imagine. I said, why don't you just talk to him? He's not going to mind. You can talk to him. So Chris sort of overhears. He goes, yeah, what's up, buddy? He said, hey, man. He says, I'm not being rude or nothing, but I got a question I've been wanting to ask you here. I've been watching you all night. Look like you're having a real good time. Chris goes, yeah, it's a rockin' bar. We're really enjoying it. He goes, well, man, I'd love to ask you a question if you don't mind. Chris says, you ask me anything, buddy. He says, well, I'm wondering what it's like to be drunk when you're blind. And Chris goes, oh, he says, well, are you drunk right now? And the guy goes, oh, yeah, I got a real good buzz on. He reaches into him and he goes, close your eyes.